What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be reacting to Food Theory, the truth of the world's weirdest cereal. So this is my first video. So please like and subscribe, please. That really mean a lot to me. And also go subscribe to Food Theory. Okay, with that being out of the way, let's begin.
All election season long, Food Theory has run a wholesome, positive campaign against the other theory channels. But that ends now. There's simply too much at stake. Game Theory puts up big numbers, but their obsession with FNAF has severed their connection with what YouTubers...
Yeah, my part has done a lot of FNAF videos.
really want food. Film Theory hasn't had new theatrical releases to talk about for months, and yet both of these hypocritical channels have been photographed eating food on numerous occasions. Theorists, there's only one channel capable of tackling the all-important food tests, trends, and memes that the internet really wants. That's why on November 3rd, cast your subscription for Food Theory.
I'm Matt Pat, and I approve this message. But feel free to subscribe to the other theory channels too.
¿Qué haces con esa de esta tarea o qué haces, Brian, con eso? Ayer ya lo estabas usando, hoy otra vez hasta toda la tarde. Te quitaste
for president.
esa madre todo el día. Ahorita le voy a decir para qué te lo está dejando. ¿Qué es lo que necesitas de hacer en eso? Campeón, pinche, como tú te quedas en el atrás.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Food Theory, here to add a pinch of election season seasoning. Loyal theorists, here in the States, Election Day is right around the corner, and let me tell you, it has been a long time coming. Technically, this election season will have lasted for 1,194 days when all said and done, thanks to Representative John Delaney, who declared his 2020 candidacy for president all the way back in the summer of 2017. So today, in honor of this monumental U.S. election cycle finally coming to a close, Food Theory is covering perhaps the most unbelievable food election in history. That's right, it said food election. It's not often that politics and food collide, but that's precisely what happened earlier this year in South Korea. Not only is it a surprisingly apt example of how the democratic process can be corrupted, but it's straight up one of the most absurd news stories I've ever seen. I'm telling you, this one's got it all, folks. Disgusting cereal flavors, blatant election fraud, 3D animations that have aged moderately well, and Korean music videos. If you don't speak Korean, don't worry. I'm going to take you through the entire onion-themed saga that's been 16 years in the making.
Why would anyone want onion-flavored cereal?
So get ready to peel back some layers, theorists, because we're looking at how practical jokes can undermine democracy itself. Let's travel back in time to 2004 when Kellogg's came out with a Korean ad campaign that allowed fans to democratically elect the new president of Kellogg Chex World. By the way, if you were under the impression that Chex was a General Mills cereal, you're not wrong. General Mills owns Chex, but in South Korea, it's Kellogg's SK who has the Chex branding rights. Anyway, the campaign kicked off with this commercial featuring our two candidates, Checky, who promised to make Chex cereal more chocolatey, and Chaka, who promised to make Chex cereal taste more like green onion. Really tough choice there, guys. Kellogg's opened up voting to the public, assuming that it would be a landslide victory for their chocolatey mascot, Checky. After all, Chaka was a massively dislikable character who tried to blow up vats of chocolate and didn't hesitate to attempt murder. Meanwhile, Checky was the likable, heroic one who always saved the day by undoing Chaka's dastardly deeds. And besides, I think we can all agree that Checky is just so much cuter than Chaka. I mean, come on, the guy looks like the love child of evil SpongeBob and the Mucinex phlegm. Given that the campaign was geared towards children, Chex obviously assumed that kids would vote overwhelmingly in favor of delicious chocolate as opposed to disgusting onion. And they were probably right to think so, except they didn't just open up voting to kids, they opened it up to the entire internet, including the South Korean internet forum DC Inside, which recognized the Kellogg's vote as a top-notch trolling opportunity. And so votes began pouring in from individuals who were outside of Kellogg's target demographic. As one Korean who was 13 years old at the time recalls, quote, "I was young, so I voted for chocolate. Green onion didn't sound that appetizing." She also remembers how other people around her voted green onion because they thought it was the funny thing to do. And because Kellogg's had a website that displayed
Why is it funny?
an up-to-date tally of the votes, anyone with internet access could see that the joke was catching on in a big way. By the second week of voting, Chaka was way out in front. Naturally, Kellogg started sweating bullets at this point because it wasn't as though they had some warehouse full of green onion checks ready to be delivered to stores. There was no green onion checks. Chaka was a sham candidate who was never supposed to win the Kellogg Checks presidency, and yet the vote had somehow gotten away from Kellogg's, even after they'd seemingly done everything right. They pitted basically the most delicious flavor in the world against the most disgusting flavor in the world. Their commercials straight up showed the children of Korea how they should be reacting. Hooray for Checky, boo for Chaka. And yet, despite Kellogg's best efforts to achieve a predetermined outcome, Chaka was on trajectory to win the presidency.
That's what Kellogg's gets for doing that. For making a cereal politics.
That's when Kellogg's took matters into their own hands. Realizing that they had to get the vote offline, Kellogg's added a vote by phone option, as well as in-person voting at theme parks. It wasn't enough. At this point, Kellogg's was at maximum desperation, and they ham-handedly declared a bunch of the online votes invalid, swept the whole thing under the rug, and just declared Checky the winner. And thus, the new super chocolatey version of Chex was released across Korea as planned. Of course, the Korean public immediately knew they'd been had, and over the following years, through memes and online petitions, Chaka became a symbol of the pro-democracy resistance against Checky's brutal dictatorship. And suddenly, after 16 years of silence on the matter, Kellogg's dropped a music video apologizing for their 2004 misdeeds, announcing to the world that green onion Chex would finally be made available for purchase.
And they still didn't know that. They trolled them or something.
아름답던 시절 가슴 아픈 기억 모두 정말 미안해 추억 속에 남아 후회하기 전에 이제라도 말했네.
So, I was curious to know, was Kellogg's right to rig the vote? Has Korea been unjustly denied a cereal that's actually delicious? In order to get to the bottom of it, we here at Food Theory shelled out an exorbitant amount of money and actually got ourselves a box of this limited edition Chex.
Wait, how much was that?
No candy.
Yeah, how much was that to get the cereal and for the shipping?
Flavor shipped out from Korea. Eat your heart out, Mr. Beast. I dropped like $25 on this thing, plus international shipping. So here it is.
Yeah, what is that? How much is that now? Like $40 or $50?
This is the cereal that launched 1,000 memes internationally.
I like the look of him. He looks like he's breathing smog. This is terrible.
He reminds me of the mascot from Mucinex. That's the problem.
Candy.
That just looks like the regular Chex cereal.
That's the problem with Chex, is that they're kind of like pouches that saturate with milk really fast and get soggy within 30 seconds
Well, then we've got to
of
eat
the
it.
milk hitting the bowl.
Oh, it's already soggy. God, it's been sitting on my spoon for like 10 seconds. Come on. Go. Go. Now it's oniony and a little bit sweet and kind of milky. Oh.
Doesn't cereal already soak it up in a few seconds?
It's real weird. It is real weird.
I can't tell if the milk improves it or makes it worse.
I don't
actually.
know if this is one of those things that like international palates will appreciate it more than I do.
I feel like we appreciate a lot of things from international palates, but
Nope.
not this one.
Nope. It is a weird mishmash of flavors that
Yeah.
should not go together. You still have that corny sweetness, but now you also have like the milky sweetness, and you still got the onion powder. It is just bad.
It is actually really kind of upsetting now.
It is not pleasant.
Mm-mm.
All right, so from a business standpoint, Chex was probably right to put an extra chocolatey flavor out there instead. Checky cereal is still going strong 16 years later, along with some chocolatey spin-offs like Cookies and Cream and Snowball, which honestly sounds...
I wonder what snowballs taste like.
delicious, and I wish I had ordered those from Korea rather than the green onion one. But from an ethics standpoint, Kellogg's definitely let the voting public down. And the fact that they made a super catchy apology music video isn't what I want to focus on today either. To me, the story is that Kellogg's didn't just fall victim to online trolling once, they tried the exact same thing in Japan a few years later and got the exact same results.
Ew. I don't know if I paused at the right or wrong moment. Wait, what is this mascot? I don't know him. Is it a monkey?
That's right. In 2008, 4 years later, while Korea was still reeling from their fraudulent Czech cereal election, Kellogg's went ahead and rigged a wasabi versus chocolate election for their Japanese cereal Chocowa. Again, the public voted in favor of the grosser flavor, yet chocolate was declared the winner. So you'll forgive me if I take Kellogg's catchy Korean apology music video with a grain of salt. Still waiting to try wasabi flavored Chocowa. Besides, I'm trying to envision what a Japanese pop apology video would look like, and let's just say Weeb Pat needs it in his life yesterday. See, to me, the story of this whole thing is that it just keeps happening. Kellogg's online elections were overrun by trolls not just once, but twice. In 2012, Mountain Dew allowed voters to choose the name of its newest flavor, only to cancel the poll after Hitler did nothing wrong took the lead. That same year, Pitbull promised to do a concert at whichever Walmart store received the most votes on Facebook. Trolls swooped in, flooded the poll, and sent Pitbull to perform in Kodiak, Alaska, America's most remote Walmart. In 2006, both Chuck Norris and Stephen Colbert were duking it out in the polls to have two separate Hungarian bridges named after themselves. The list of public online votes that went off the rails is a mile long. Bodie McBoatface, Horsey McHorseface, Mr. Splashy Pants the Whale. Just this year, Mississippi allowed the public to submit new designs for its new state flag, and this mosquito design made it
Look at that glitch. Stop. What?
to the second round before officials stepped in to remove it, calling it a typo. I repeat, this happened this year.
How was that a typo?
2020, this type of trolling is obviously a thing, and has been a thing for a couple decades now, and yet huge companies and organizations keep getting surprised by it. So I'd like to take this opportunity to go over some of the things that they're doing wrong, because more than a few of these fixes seem applicable not only to company-sponsored online polls and light-hearted food elections, but to actual elections in the 21st century as well. Now, if you're a company or organization or even a government looking to hold a vote that actually achieves the will of the people, then trolling has got to be a concern. It's because trolling, by definition, often involves presenting an argument or opinion that you don't necessarily believe in order to elicit a negative reaction from somebody else. In the case of the Kellogg Chex election of 2004, it's pretty clear that the majority of the voters didn't actually prefer the taste of green onion to chocolate. The opportunity to prank Kellogg's, a massive corporation who's obviously rigged a low-stakes election, it's just too satisfying to pass up. The result was a swarm of protest votes that had little to do with the issue supposedly at hand, which was giving the children of Korea a delicious but not altogether healthy cereal. And it's this swarm effect that makes elections in the 21st century so different. Protest votes are as old as democracy, but the internet has made it much easier for disgruntled voters to find one another and coordinate those protest votes. Plus, the veil of anonymity allows people to behave a lot differently online than they do in person. I mean, it's no accident that trolling is enjoying a golden age now that the internet is a thing. Scientists point to what's called the online disinhibition effect. When people get to hide behind a computer screen, they have less restraint in how they communicate with others. It's kind of like how people are trigger happy with their car horns.
They can zoom
From inside their cars, and yet you almost never see strangers actually raging at each other face to face on the sidewalk. In addition to the online disinhibition
street fight.
effect, studies have found that trolling behavior increases when there's other trolling going on. So it's kind of like peer pressure. If others are doing it, then people who otherwise wouldn't participate in such behavior find themselves compelled to join in on the joke. And this is useful info for Kellogg's and anybody else looking to hold a democratic election in the internet age, because Kellogg's botched election in Korea is pretty much the perfect example of what not to do if you're looking to achieve a result that actually matches the will of the people. First and foremost, it was a mistake for Kellogg's to publicly display the vote tally in progress. No, I'm not saying that they should have secretly altered the tally. In fact, the tallying process should be as transparent and open as possible. But if the online community was unaware that Team Green Onion was winning the battle while the election was still underway, there wouldn't have been as much peer pressure to join in on the trolling, meaning a higher percentage of the respondents would have been voting in good faith for the flavor that they actually wanted. I can't help but to think about YouTube's decision to do away with live subscriber tallies in the wake of the James Charles scandal. A huge reason James Charles, this huge...
Wasn't it because he didn't say sorry to Tati because he did something wrong?
Huge beauty influencer lost as many subscribers as he did as quickly as he did was because the public got excited to watch his subscriber tally plummet in real time. I mean,
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I didn't know that.
people were hosting watch parties of his plummeting subscriber count. Since YouTube has implemented this new, more opaque subscriber tally, there's been no shortage of YouTuber controversy, and yet no one has lost as many subscribers as quickly. Next, it's important for modern-day elections to keep their electorate well-defined. Given that Kellogg's was trying to sell a kid's cereal, they obviously wanted kids to weigh in, and yet they took no steps to exclude older people from inserting themselves into the process. There's a reason democratic countries don't allow foreign citizens to choose their leaders, and it's the same reason Kellogg shouldn't let DC Inside select its next Chex flavor. Had Kellogg's put any type of age verification in place, maybe their Checky mascot wouldn't have come with the authoritarian baggage that he has today. Finally, and perhaps most important,
Yep. What didn't Kellogg's just made the vote for kids only? They should know better that the older ones are gonna troll them.
importantly of all, the Checky Chaka election of 2004 shows how important it is to put forth legitimate, viable candidates. The reason this election turned into one big practical joke, not to mention the Japanese wasabi
This year's presidency is a whole joke in the U.S.
chocolate election as well, was because it was so obvious that it was rigged in favor of Checky. There was clearly a right answer and a wrong answer. It was a mockery of democracy, so of course people turned it into a mockery. Had Kellogg's presented two candidates that actually represented flavors the Korean public wanted, there would have been nothing to troll. Internet pranksters would have gotten no thrill from watching vanilla win over chocolate, because either way the results would have been, well, vanilla. So the takeaway from the whole Kellogg's Chex fiasco is something all elections should take to heart, be they big or small, important or frivolous. It's tough to make a joke out of an election when there's no joke to be had. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit.
I really like the ending. Okay, goodbye, guys.